Hello everybody, my name is Ashley Anderson and today I will be presenting Chapter 2 from our Readings and Planning Theory textbook. This chapter is titled Authoritarian High Modernism, James C. Scott. What do you think of when you see the shape on the screen? The state of Texas, right? There's not a lot of detail in this outline of Texas. Now what happens to your opinion if I change the shape to look like this? There's much more detail to this map, and you begin thinking about the roads and highways located in Texas. The outline of the shape is the same, however your thoughts change when the map is inserted into the shape. I'm going to change the map one more time. Again, it's a map of Texas. However, this map shows some of the major cities in Texas. This map has more detail than the first image I showed you, but less detail than the road map. Maps are an interesting tool. They display only those aspects that the map maker deems important while ignoring everything else. If I wanted to show you where Lubbock, Texas was located in relation to San Antonio or Houston, the last map I presented would be the adequate amount of detail. I wouldn't need to show a map with all the major roads and highways. The transformative power of a map is within the power of the creator. The creator can depict certain perspectives within their particular map. Using the framework of a map, is it possible to create a plan or a map to improve society and the human condition? In this chapter presentation, I will explore the possibilities of this concept. I will begin the presentation with the elements of state development as described by James C. Scott. Then I will define high modernism with examples from the 19th and 20th centuries, as well as the lineage of productive labor. After that, I will talk about the Age of Enlightenment in relation to the high modernist way of thinking. The discovery of society is next, followed by the radical authority of high modernism. I will conclude the presentation with a few examples of resistance to high modernism in society. So let's begin with the elements of state development. The first element is high modernism, which I will explain in greater detail later in this presentation. For now, I will simply describe high modernism as the desire for improved state development. This means creating an improved state for the entire society in all aspects of living. The second element is utilizing the power of modern state. This is the unrestrained use of the power of how things are currently to achieve the designs of the improved state in high modernism. Put simply, the means for implementing high modernism is evaluate improving the modern or current state. The final element for state development is a weakened society that lacks resistance power. This is the environment on which to build the desired state in high modernism. This weakened environment ensures there won't be a great rebellion to the change of high modernism. This element helps to explain why high modernism requires a radical authority, which I will explain in greater detail later on in the presentation. For now, let's focus on what exactly high modernism means. High modernism means aspiring an improvement to the order of nature and society using scientific and technological progress. This would mean asking the question, how can the benefits of technical and scientific progress be applied in every field of human activity to improve society as a whole? High modernists, or people who believe in this way of thinking, want to change social habits and human nature. However, they believe it is man's destiny to tame nature to fit the needs of human interests. This is an unrealistic ambition to transform nature to suit humans' purposes, as nature in itself has unpredictable tendencies. Some examples of high modernism include development of scientific and technical knowledge, the expansion of production, the rational design of social order, the growing satisfaction of human needs, increasing control over nature, including human nature, with scientific understanding of natural laws. This goes back to the unrealistic ambition I previously mentioned. Now that you understand the principles of high modernism, you're probably wondering when high modernism was a popular set of beliefs. The answer is the 19th and 20th centuries. High modernism is associated with industrialization in Western Europe and North America in the mid-19th and early 20th centuries. In the 19th century, science and industry were major contributors to transformations during that time. Cotton and wool textile manufacturing was revolutionized with the factory system. The factory mindset was now applied to the design of society as a whole. Steam power and other mechanical devices made production much easier and more efficient. Advances in transportation, such as railroads, made business easier, faster, and more profitable, which benefits the society. Mass-produced commodities made prices cheaper and easier to produce. Again, these are examples of how science and technology contributed to the entire society. The 20th century brought the idea of re-engineering entire social orders to implementation through creating improvements to society. After the Depression of the 1930s, societies began experimenting with social and economic planning in an effort to improve the economic distress. What could be thought of the birth of 20th century high modernism occurred with German mobilization in World War I. During the war, the Germans realized the key to sustaining the war effort was planning and rationing raw materials and the transport of those raw materials. After the war was over, the world realized what could be accomplished with constrained resources during wartime, and they also began envisioning what more could be accomplished if the same energy and planning were focused on popular welfare rather than wartime efforts. Productive labor, sometimes referred to as productivism, was also realized during this time. There are two distinctive lineages of productive labor: North American and European. The North American lineage can be attributed to the work of Frederick Taylor in the creation of assembly lines. This permitted use of unskilled labor and controlled the pace of production as well as the entire labor processes to increase productivity. The European lineage focused on energetics or ergonomics for productivity. Energetics questions motion, fatigue, measured rest, rational hygiene, and nutrition to improve worker productivity. This concept treats a worker as a machine that must be taken care of in order to work properly. The Age of Enlightenment is closely related to high modernism. Age of Enlightenment was a cultural movement using reason to reform society by challenging traditional ideas. People following this movement also looked rationally at human institutions as well as nature. Put another way, the thinkers of Enlightenment were influenced by scientific revolutions and believed in the light of science and reason on the world in order to question traditional ideas and ways of doing things. This thinking led to the discovery of society under a whole new light. The discovery of society in this way created new ideas and beliefs. Enlightenment thinkers wanted to challenge the old way of thinking. They believed in promoting science, skepticism, and intellectual interchange. Traditional views under the mentality of "this is the way we've always done it" were no longer valid in the Enlightenment thinkers' minds. They wanted to create an order to the community and suppress obscure or barbaric customs and practices, as they were not rational in the minds of the Enlightenment thinkers. At the core, Enlightenment thinkers believed the purpose of the state was to improve health, skills, education, longevity, productivity, morals, and family life for all of the members of the society. They wanted to design a social life that was uniform and that would not hinder the progress of that society. As you can probably imagine, social engineering of a state is authoritarian in nature, and thus the radical authority of high modernism is exemplified. The radical authority of high modernism promotes the viewpoint that there must be a true break with history and tradition. The past is a hindrance that must be surpassed. The present is the platform for planning a better future. The radical authority of high modernism improvements of the human condition using scientific knowledge. However, it also disallows any other competing sources of judgment. This means those who possess the scientific knowledge are equipped to lead in the new age, and those who do not abide by the new transformations should be left behind. With a black and white viewpoint on high modernism, it's no wonder that there would be some resistance. I will conclude my presentation by exploring a few reasons why certain societies resisted high modernism. The first reason is some societies believe in the existence of a private sphere of activity that the state may not legitimately interfere with. Examples include health, sexuality, mental illness, sanitation, and the strategies behind them. This sphere should not be changed in order to fit a new scientific social order. The second reason is the private sector of a liberal political economy. A free market protects property and creates wealth, so a tightly uniform society would restrict this free market. They also believed the economy was far too complex to be sustained by a hierarchical administration. The last reason I will explore is the existence of a political structure through which a resistant society could make its influence known. At the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned one of the elements of state development is a weakened society that lacks resistance power. Well, it only makes sense that a resistance to high modernism lies within a society with power to resist. Due to the power of this society, high modernists must accommodate to the local opinions and avoid being voted out of political office. I will leave you with one final thought regarding high modernism and the power to plan social order in human nature. If the transformative power of a map lies within the creator of that map, how detailed do we want this map to be to determine our social order and human nature? This concludes my presentation on authoritarian high modernism. Thank you for listening.